Hello there, guys, and welcome back to Reborn with Michael. Today I want to tell you something about circumstances, why they really don't matter. And it's hard to say that because I understand where you're coming from. Yes, but I have this problem and this thing isn't working out and that relationship isn't good and I need money by next Friday and I need this to happen. I've lived in that energy. The way that I got out of that is to realize that circumstances do not matter because they are simply a reflection of the past thoughts, feelings, and actions that you've taken. And I'm going to go into why that's important soon. So all I'm going to ask of you is to see this through to the end, and you will really start to understand the truth around circumstances and what their importance is. If you don't know me, I simplify spirituality here. So let's simplify the idea around circumstances. What is a circumstance? So your current reality is your circumstances. Now, there's two teachers that I'm going to probably jump into that explain the importance of the outside world so clearly. Neville Goddard would call it the world of Caesar, and you pay no mind to it. You pay no mind to the shadows and the demons of the current reality. And Michael Singer would say, why would you let a situation determine your happiness? You become a slave to circumstance. And I want to tell you something because of someone who has lived through heavy circumstances in their life. And I think that's why some people watch my videos, because they know that I'm on this journey to actually speak real truth around manifestation and, you know, the law of assumption or whatever you want to call it. But for me, it's creation. And there's an interesting thing that happens. When you realize that circumstances are actually meaningless, you actually do something that's prophesized in the Bible so regularly. And then I've had a few people to say, when someone talks about the Bible, it makes me shrink up. Let's not go into the doctrine of it being a religion that has been human enhanced, you know, to control or anything. Let's talk about the Bible as a really brilliant spiritual text that intellectual, spiritually minded people wrote to teach the people of the day. Well, my point about circumstance is this. We are taught, do not make a god of anything outside yourself. Whenever I was trying to manifest something around circumstances, so when I was literally £40 in the bank, living in this townhouse in the middle of Spain and just not knowing what to do, no amount of me affirming, praying, visualizing or anything was changing anything. In fact, it was actually adding to my misery, because all I did was I'd feel better for a second and then I'd go back to the circumstance. If you really want to understand and overcome your circumstances, you need to face the emotional part of you that's embracing them and let that go. See, so many people think, to overcome circumstance, I need to live in the end. I need to act as a rich man. I need to act as a healthy person. It's like, that's never going to work, because the lie will catch up with you. I don't want you to lie about your circumstance. I want you to face it and realize that the only thing that's actually hurting you is your reaction to that circumstance. The circumstance itself is just a situation. And I like using this term meaningless so often. Now, I'm not trying to belittle anyone's problems by saying it's meaningless. I'm asking you to look at circumstances as meaningless. So it's like, okay, it's meaningless. But if I'm on a true spiritual journey and I'm not just using manifestation to try and control my life and control everyone around me, that's when I'm actually going to start to create, because I start to see it as a lesson. So the circumstance can often come up because there's something you need to learn for your growth to allow you to handle the next stage of life. So all of the pains that I've been through that led me up to here have actually been to my benefit, and I wouldn't change a single one, because it taught me how to get to this place where I can let go of my emotional attachment to the circumstance. You see, every problem that you're trying to overcome, you're trying to overcome it because it makes you feel bad. But here's the thing. When you start to become the observer and start to relax and release behind the problem, you start to breathe, you start to relax, and you start to really still the physical body. You make it become still, and you observe that feeling, and you watch it round your body, and it leaves, and then suddenly you open your eyes and you go, everything feels okay, regardless of what's going on. Well, here's the thing. Every great teacher on creation, Joe Dispenza, Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, Abraham Hicks, always says you're going to create from the state of being that you are. So if you can change your state of being, regardless of the circumstance that's happening, those circumstances are going to change eventually. But what tends to happen is we change our state of being, we start to think, well, I've done it now, surely it should show up, and then we react to the circumstance again. I've been living this way for a number of years now, and I still have problems come up in my life. Now, the beautiful part about what I'm trying to explain to you is as you let go, as you realize your only job is to let go of the emotional embracement of that problem, that's what you go to every time. So every time a problem arises, I let go of the emotional embracement or attachment to that problem. The solution comes up effortlessly. It comes up magically, almost instantaneously. So the truth is that what's happening there is the fact that you are so bogged down by your circumstance keeps you stuck in it. But you're not stuck because of physical reality. You're stuck because of the emotional loops of the reactions you keep having to that circumstance. So what does it do? It just repeats itself again, repeats itself again. If you were to see your problems as opportunities to let go of parts of yourself that aren't serving you anymore, you'd realize that living in the end or from the end is actually a state of peace, serenity, and letting go regardless of what's happening around you. Why do I say that? Well, it doesn't matter what you're asking for. If you had it, you would feel peace and serenity around it. If you knew that your finances would always be a certain amount, would you have any fear around money? If you knew that your physical body was going to remain healthy until you're 99, would you have fear around your body? If you knew that the love of your life was going to be faithful to you for the rest of your days, would you have any fear around it? So your job is actually to let go of fear around your life. But we've been taught that life happens to us, so we try and control it. But what we don't realize is life is actually happening through us, and any circumstance you're facing right now can evolve and change just through changing the inner world, changing your reaction and your energetic standpoint towards that thing. You know, if you look at Abraham Hicks, he talks about going up the ladder of emotion. Just become less attached. So you might be in absolute fear, then you go to a bit of anger, then you go to a little bit of nonchalant, then you go to peace. From peace, you start to rise up to hope, gratitude, love, and all of these higher vibe emotions. But what people are trying to do from these circumstances, they're trying to jump from fear to intense bliss, because that's what they're taught to do. But those emotions aren't going to work unless you deal with the fear. Your circumstances aren't going to lose their potency unless you deal with the fear. That's what I wanted to say to you today. That's why circumstances really don't matter. And if you can overcome them, you will manifest and change your life very quickly. I'll see you at the next one, guys. Thank you so much.